The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's Helpline session, a special leap year Helpline session with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I'd like to welcome all of our participants to our Helpline session here. Yes, this is our leap year version. I don't think we've ever done this before, Andrea. So
I'm not
this
sure.
is kind of unique. It feels so different. Happy Monday, everybody. And this is our open forum free-for-all, so we can talk about anything you like. If you have a question that you'd like to bring up or a topic of conversation or anything like that, don't be shy. Let us know, and we will talk about anything your heart desires related to the Craig Proctor system, of course. And I want to get started with a question that was emailed to me over the weekend that I thought would be really good to share with everybody on the webinar here this morning. And it was in regards to training an OSA to do the buyer presentation. So I guess here's the kind of logical progression with the system. Is the first step is lead generation. You're going to try, or you have generated, an overflow of leads to follow up with. An overflow of leads means you have more leads than you're actually going to select as clients. So if you are generating, say, 15, 20, 100 leads a week, then you're not going to work with 15, 20, 100 clients in a week. You're going to follow up with all of them, but you're going to be selective in who you work with. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you're going to cherry pick the business that you're going to do. And maybe you say, well, that's going to be primarily listings, or it's going to be weighted more heavily towards you doing the listings than working with buyers, which you could argue is more time consuming if you're the one that's actually working with the buyer, showing property, etc. Then what happens is we become profitable doing that, but we realize at the same time that you can do two things that really aren't that time consuming. Number one, you can generate as many leads as you want to, regardless of whether or not you yourself are personally going to work with those prospects. And number two, you realize that if you sit down and you make a few phone calls using the universal script, you can book appointments, particularly buyer appointments. Buyer appointments are easier to book than seller appointments. And the reason is because we can book a buyer appointment for a buyer who's not planning on buying anything for several weeks or months. No problem. As long as they're looking, we can help them look. So we can book an appointment. If someone says, well, we're definitely not buying anything until at least the end of the school year, but we are looking. We go to open houses, we responded to your ad, we were looking online. Great. Would you like me to email you every day all the great deals as they come on the market? It's free. There's no obligation. Would that be helpful? They say yes. We say, great. I want to do a good job. When have you got 15 minutes to meet with us? There's no obligation. There's no cost. You're not obligated to buy a home at any point, but this will help you find all the best deals immediately in your inbox. When would be a good time? Days, evenings, weekends. You can book that appointment easily with any buyer. Now watch this. With a seller, that's not the same. With a seller, that isn't the scenario, because if a seller says we're definitely not going to be putting our home on the market until after the school year, you do not want to book an appointment with them today. You need to follow up with them, and you need to call them back and book the appointment closer to when it is a listing appointment. So here's what winds up happening. What winds up happening is, although you prefer to work with the sellers or more sellers than buyers, it's easier to convert buyers to appointments and to generate buyers than it is sellers. So here's one of the solutions to that is you then bring on board an outside sales agent. And the outside sales agent is there to work with the overflow of buyers that you can not only easily generate, but you can very easily, with a 5-minute phone call, convert into an appointment. Now, what you want to do is you want to have an OSA that's so good, an outside sales agent that's so good that you delegate the appointment to your buyer specialist. And you say that when you book the appointment. So you book the appointment for tomorrow evening at 7:30, and you say, great, you're going to meet with my buyer specialist, Mary, and Mary is going to take down your criteria and get you started with the buyer system. Remember, you don't need to bring your wallet or your checkbook. It's absolutely free. But do spend a little bit of time and really consider all of the most important key elements in the home that you're looking for, and Mary will be able to do a really spectacular job for you in making sure you get all the great deals. If you have any questions, you can call us, but otherwise we'll see you tomorrow at 7:30. Now, at 7:30 tomorrow, they're going to come into the office and they're going to meet with your outside sales agent, Mary. And Mary's going to take them through the buyer presentation exactly as if it were you. Now, here's something that you, well, if you've done it, you realize this is true, but if you haven't, you may find that this is counter to what we may have thought. And that is, it is easier to teach Mary how to be really good at the buyer presentation than it would be to teach Mary how to be really good with the universal callback script and book that appointment in the first place. In other words, the skill of lead conversion over the phone is a far more difficult skill to master than the skill of booking an appointment, or sorry, the skill of converting an appointment, somebody who has come in, sat down, and getting that buyer signed to a no obligation buyer contract. So here's the long, well, this is definitely the long answer to the question, but now I'm getting to the root of the question that was asked, which is this: how do I train the outside sales agent to be good at the buyer presentation? I get all that other stuff now. We've talked about that. Overflow of leads. You book the appointment, and the outside sales agent is going to go on the appointment. Okay, so watch this. Here's how it's going to work. Your outside sales agent is going to shadow you, and that may take 2, 3, 4, 5 appointments, but they're going to shadow you. In other words, they're going to sit right beside you when you give the buyer presentation to the next 3, 4, 5 buyers that you book appointments with. And they're simply going to sit there and they're going to observe how you go through the buyer presentation and how you conclude the buyer presentation with the signing of an exclusive buyer agency agreement. And they're going to watch and witness you doing it. And of course, you are going to sign 4 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 of the buyers that you meet with. And after 4 or 5 witnessing this, they're going to say, I can do that. And then you are going to shadow them for a couple of buyer presentations. And between them shadowing you and you shadowing them, you're going to work out all the little bugs, all the little mistakes, all the little details that'll make a difference. And before you know it, they are absolutely every bit as good as you are at presenting the buyer presentation and having it result in an exclusive 6-month or 12-month buyer contract. But the way that you're going to do it is through them shadowing you. In other words, you've got to prove to them that this is possible by simply showing them. Right? So it's one thing to sit them down in the boardroom and say, okay, well, let me just familiarize you with the buyer presentation that you're going to be giving. That's great. And you're going to do that and you're going to explain to them how it all works. But way, way more valuable than that is actually letting them watch you do what you would just do anyway. Right? Now, they're going to be, that buyer is going to be working with your outside sales agent. So it's not awkward that they're sitting there beside you because you're explaining that this is my buyer specialist, Mary, and Mary's going to be working with you exclusively, making sure that you're up to date on the most immediate properties in the marketplace, helping you with any financial home loan needs that you might have, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, setting up showings, blah, blah, blah. So it makes sense. It's not an awkward position that Mary's sitting beside you at the time of the buyer presentation. So this is the process that you're going to use that is very successful. Now, here's where this really gets good. When you have one Mary who is just as good as you are at giving the buyer presentation and having it result in a signed contract, then you realize that it is very easy to generate more buyers than even Mary can handle. And since all you're doing is spending 5 minutes booking the appointment, and that's it, you don't work with the buyer, you don't even meet with the buyer. Your outside sales agent does all of that. They go on the appointment, they get the contract signed, they work with the buyer. Your job is to generate the buyer, which doesn't require any time of yours, it's automated. And then number 2, to spend the 5 minutes on the phone with that buyer, determining if they're good enough for an appointment, and if they are, booking the appointment, and then boom, you wash your hands of it. You have nothing to do. Pure profit center. Here's the point though. When Mary becomes so good at giving the buyer presentation that she can do it just as well as you, she becomes the social proof and the trainer for the next outside sales agent that comes. So when Mary is full out and Mary can't handle any more, yet you can generate more buyers, you say to Mary, hey, look, Mary, you're always going to get the pick of the litter. Okay, I'm always going to make sure that you are given all of the best buyers. Okay, but there's an overflow here, and you're running yourself ragged, and I want you to know that I'm going to create some flexibility with you in two ways. One, I'm going to relieve you of some of the overflow of buyers. Okay, so you can fill yourself up as much as you want. You can take it as many as you want, work as much as you want, but I'm going to bring on someone else to handle the overflow. Now, here's why that's also going to be helpful. When you're working with a buyer and maybe you have to go away or you're not available, you're going to have another outside buyer specialist who's going to be able to handle that for you, or in an emergency situation, they're going to be able to take care of something that you would otherwise have to do or feel obligated to do. So that's going to be helpful for you. Now, here's how this is going to work, though. They're going to shadow you. They're going to shadow you for a week, and they're going to watch you give the presentation, and they're going to see how you do it, and then you're going to shadow them, and we're going to continue the process this way. But here's the thing. When John, the next outside sales agent, comes on board and watches Mary give the presentation and get the buyer contract signed, then you don't need to convince John that this is possible. John sees it with his own eyes and says, I can do that. Pure profit. The benefit to Mary and John is simple. I'm giving you appointments. You are never going to spend a nickel of your money, and you're never going to spend a second of your time ever again looking for a client to work with. No more knocking on doors, no more cold calling, no more bothering friends and family, no more sitting, trying to figure out how you're going to generate your next deal. You're going to come in the morning and look at your day timer, and your day timer is going to be full of appointments with buyers who have actively looked for property and need help because they're motivated to purchase. And you are going to work with those clients every single day without spending any of your money or any of your time to procure them in the first place. Now, that is a good deal for everybody involved. Everybody wins in this scenario. So, boy, that was a long way of answering that question, but I wanted to share it with everybody because the truth is this is relevant to every single one of you, regardless of where you are in the process right now. If you're in lead generation right now, what you're doing is you're working on generating an overflow of leads, too many leads for you to personally handle. And as soon as that happens, then your focus is on lead conversion, becoming really, really good at converting the leads to appointments. As soon as that happens, you're going to cherry pick the seller leads, okay, the ones that you want to work with, but you're going to have an overflow. And you're not going to be able to not necessarily do the appointment. That's fine. The appointment, you can bang out an appointment in 15 minutes, half an hour, but working with the buyers is extremely time consuming. You're going to be limited. That's the moment you know that bringing on an outside sales agent would be a pure profit center for you. So I know some of you are at that point already, and that's great. But for everybody else, that's why I wanted to share that and sort of reinforce that. All right, Andrea, boy, that's a lot of talking. What a motor mouth I am, huh?
Very thorough, though.
Very thorough. Okay, well, hopefully that sparks some thoughts or some questions with some of our members that are on the webinar here this morning. So whatever is on your mind, please type it into the chat. Let us know. We can talk about anything you want. I think, Andrea, somebody may have uploaded an ad as well that they wanted us to look at that was kind of like an emergency.
Yes, we do have that, and we have several questions via chat that came in. If you haven't done so already and you'd like to ask an audio question, you can click the hand icon. Remember, you have to have a mic or be on the telephone. A couple of questions that I've been reading that interest me while you were talking was members are having problems with canceled appointments. These two members, specifically buyers, canceling the initial appointment.
Okay, so one of the things that I kind of demonstrated there that I think is really important, and we've talked about logistically. In other words, the appointment will be less likely canceled the sooner it is. So let's put aside all that stuff. You can't go booking appointments. It's Monday. You can't book an appointment for next Thursday. It's not going to happen. The longer the span between when you book the appointment and when the appointment is, we know that's a recipe for disaster, either a no-show or a cancellation. But watch this. I want you to use helpful language to solidify the benefit of the appointment and remove the risk. So you've already booked the appointment. It's completely booked. And you've set a time. They know where your office is. you're just about to get off the phone with the prospect, and I say this, hey, Andrea, I want to give you just a little homework assignment before our appointment on Wednesday evening. Can you and your husband take a little bit of time and just consider what are all the most important elements in the home that you're looking for? What are all of the things that are most important to you in a home? And when you guys come up with that list, everything that's really, really important to you, it'll speed up the process of making sure we look and find the perfect property. But also remember, when you come on Wednesday evening, don't bother bringing your wallet or checkbook. There is no cost to this at all, but it will speed up the process and get you right out the door with a great list of properties immediately that you can take a look at if you want, and set up if you can take a little bit of time before the appointment and consider everything that you're looking for. Does that sound okay, Andrea? Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm reiterating the benefit of the appointment, but really what I'm trying to do is this. I'm trying to minimize the threat of coming and meeting with a salesperson. Listen, the reason they cancel isn't because they don't want what you're offering. It's because they fear cost or obligation. They're afraid. They know that I'm meeting with a salesperson. What am I, crazy? So we've got to minimize that threat, that real threat that they feel. Okay? And the way to do that is through the words that come out of your mouth. My suggestion though is this. Do not do this unless you've identified that this is a problem that you're having. In other words, there's somebody on the line right now that's like, I don't ever get any no-shows. I don't get any cancellations. Like 90% of my appointments happen. But I really like that dialogue you use there, James. I'm going to try that. No, you're not. Don't do that. Do not fix what isn't broken. Do not. So anybody that's listening to this, whatever you're doing right now, if it is causing appointments to show up, don't change a thing. If, on the other hand, like our questioner here, if you're finding that appointments are canceling, then you've got to do something different to stop them from canceling. So my suggestion is use that language at the conclusion of when you've got the appointment booked. Make sure they understand that the benefit, and you've really diffused any fear or threat of cost and obligation of meeting with a salesperson, and that will help a great deal. Here's one other advice I'd give you is do not tell them that you'll call them to confirm the appointment. All right, that's a definite no. Don't say, okay, well, I'll give you a call. When you call them to confirm, they're going to cancel it. All right, especially if it's been several days. Always put the onus on them. Okay, you could say this. I'm going to send you a confirmation email with our address and a couple of bullet points on what we're going to be doing and what I need from you in terms of considerations of the home that you're looking for, so that we can get you set up quickly. If anything changes, my contact information is on there, and we can always reschedule if that's something that you have to do, but all that contact detail will be on the email. All right, so that's, I mean, you could do that as well. That's something else that you could put into the equation. If you are getting 9 out of 10 of your appointments to show up, you're doing a great job. Don't change a thing. But if you're getting, less than that, especially substantially less than that, then yes, you've got to try something. And I would suggest putting into place one of these suggestions that I'm making here. Good one, Andrea.
Okay, so what we're looking at now, or what we will be looking at here in just a second, is Dermindra's ad that they submitted. So I have their line open, Dermindra, and the ad is on the webinar.
Well, hi, James.
Hey, how you doing, Dermindra? I'm good.
I'm good.
Awesome. Okay, so I see that you're running an ad in the Mirror in Scarborough. Hey,
right, yes.
Answer this question for me. How is this newspaper distributed?
So in Scarborough, it's quite a large area, but the front page, what they do, they have divided into 4 segments of Scarborough, and all the inside page, it goes to everywhere throughout the Scarborough, but this front page goes to approximately 40,000 homes in that area. So they divide it into 4. Now I have advertised into 2 of that area, and I email you 2 different ads. So this ad that is on the screen right now, it is on the one side of this advertisement. On the other advertisement, they put it on the right side, which is what we want. But the ad is the same. There is no change. Only they change the,
there it is.
yes,
Yeah.
that's right. So it's the same, but I haven't received any leads or anything.
Any hits?
Now I have a website.
Has anybody gone to ScarboroughHouseValue.com? Have you had
No.
visits?
Yeah, no visits.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to give you two suggestions. All right.
Okay.
First of all, I think it's a great offer. So I like the fact that it's less branded, and I like the fact that it's an online home evaluation and that it says Scarborough right in the headline.
Right.
Now, to nitpick, I would have it say, what is your Scarborough home worth? What is your Scarborough home worth online?
Okay.
Just simplify it. But here's the thing that I really want you to test. I want this to stand out and jump off the page. And the problem right now is nobody is seeing it because of everything that's along the top bar. It is the least visible of everything. In other words, the color scheme that the mirror uses in the middle is more eye-popping than your ad.
Okay.
Do you see what I mean? Like,
Yes.
So what if you did this? What if the background of your ad was yellow?
Okay.
Okay, I want you to imagine that. The background is yellow, and instead of red writing, you had blue writing on a bright yellow background. So it really popped out. See, here's what has to happen. If nobody sees your ad, then it's impossible to generate response from it. And the problem right now is it's really getting lost. Even though it's in what should be a very visible location, it really doesn't leap off the page. And I think that it's largely because it's a very understated color scheme that you have here. So that's the first thing that I'd like you to try. All right, the first thing I want you to try is I want you to change up the color scheme. I want to really make this pop. And the way to do that is a yellow background would really make this leap off the page. Okay, and then you can experiment with different color on top, but red on yellow or blue on yellow is really good as well. The fact is the yellow, though, will really leap out, and it'll overwhelm. See, your ad has to overwhelm everything else that's on this page. So ask yourself right now, does it right now? And the answer is no. I think that the ad on the left and the middle, the mirror Scarborough, that leaps out off the page far more than your ad does. So that's something that you can definitely do. That won't cost any more money. Okay, now I want to put aside that suggestion, and the next suggestion I want to make is this: have you experimented with running an editorial style ad that says, "Avoid these mistakes when selling your Scarborough home this spring"?
No. Are you talking about at the same spot?
No, definitely not in the same spot, but maybe on page 3 or page 5 or page 7, somewhere in the news section of this paper. See, here's why. If this is a local newspaper, then it's a perfect spot to run a local article about home seller mistakes in Scarborough.
Right.
Okay, think about this. This is a Metroland paper. All right, so Craig's Era Banner was a Metroland paper up in York Region, right? And the number one source of lead generation in that newspaper was, in order, editorial style ads number 1, classified ads in the real estate for sale section, and then the ad like you're running right here was probably 3rd, which we would call a web display ad. All right, so using that or knowing that, then that means that the order that you should use this newspaper in is number 1, first editorial ad, number 2, experiment with classifieds, and then number 3, web display ad, which is what we're looking at right here. Okay. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to contact the newspaper. The first test we're going to do is we're going to keep the ad the way it is, but we're going to change the color scheme, and we're going to get this to leap off the page.
Right.
All right, so you can do that easily. Yellow background. The next thing that we're going to test after that, though, is we are going to test an editorial ad for Scarborough sellers who are considering putting their home on the market in the spring. we're gonna design an editorial style ad that's gonna run somewhere in this local newspaper towards the front of the paper, and it's gonna look just like an article, and it's gonna generate you 15, 20 seller leads.
Okay.
Sound
Also, I have another question. At the same spot, do you suggest also to put a branded ad?
No. No, I like this ad. For this spot, I like a less branded information ad. If you were running this in the real estate section, then a branded ad might be more appropriate. But all that's going to do is it's going to draw attention to a salesperson, as opposed to the benefit. And the benefit is definitely, what's your Scarborough home's value? For free online home evaluation, visit scarboroughhousevalue.com.
Correct. Okay. And if I have to change, because I reserved this spot for the next 3 months, so I will definitely change the color, and what you suggested, I will do that. But let's say 2-3 weeks down the road, a month down the road, if I have to change, put another ad, what kind of ad here at this spot?
All we're gonna do is we're gonna experiment with different offers. Okay, so we're gonna word this offer different, and we're gonna offer other things. Like, for example, you could say Scarborough distress home buyers, Scarborough distress sales and great deals, free list with pics.
Okay.
That's a great ad. Or you could have it say this: Scarborough home values are up. What's your home worth online?
Okay.
Right? There's all kinds of messages we can experiment with, but here's what overwhelmingly what I come to looking at this. The reason that this isn't generating anything is because nobody is seeing it. And the reason nobody's seeing it is because it's being overwhelmed by everything else. And it needs to be what is overwhelming everything else.
Correct, yes.
Okay?
Okay.
Easy enough. Awesome.
Yes.
I'll look forward to hearing your results.
Yes, I'll do it. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Okay, our next question in chat comes from Gary. When signing a long-term buyer who is 6 months away from a purchase, other than setting them up to receive homes that match their criteria and regular phone calls to check in with them, what else do you recommend? It goes on to say, should we try to get them looking at homes before they are pre-qualified and still months away from being able to purchase?
No, the whole benefit of getting them signed to a buyer contract is that you don't have to do that, okay? In other words, the buyer contract ensures that what you're able to do is you're able to comfortably send them all the information on all the properties, encourage them to go and drive by and look at anything that they might want to look at without you fearing that they're going to call off the sign and buy the property without you. That's the whole benefit of the buyer contract. And it's also the benefit of the buyer appointment. At the buyer appointment, you can explain to them how the process works. Once they sign your buyer agreement, you explain to them, I am your representative. If you see anything that you'd like to take a look at, don't call the realtor on the sign. They represent the seller. I am your representative. So if you want to look at anything, you call me anytime. I will send you all the properties. Now, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I have to tell you, what you're going to discover is 8 out of 10 of the properties that you drive by, you're going to eliminate without even having to go in the driveway. You're going to look at it, the area of the property itself, and just by looking at it, you're going to know this isn't the one. And that's perfectly fine. There might be some others where you look at them and you say, that's of interest to me. I might like to take a look at that. You pick up the phone and you call me. I will immediately schedule a showing and we'll go take a look at it. That's how this is going to work. Okay? But the benefit now is this. You're not in a position at this moment, and maybe not for several weeks or even months, where you're actually going to be putting in an offer to purchase anything, but you still should be aware of everything that's available in the marketplace and what's happening with availability, with home pricing, all of those things. So in your email inbox every single day will be any and all properties that perfectly match what you and your family are looking for, including and especially the hard to find deals. Any of them that you want to take a look at, get in the car and go drive by. I'll include the addresses, of course. And if there's any that you want to see inside, give me a call and we can set up a showing. Now, how many buyers could you work with at any one given time if that's the way the process worked? And the answer is you could work with a lot. if you're not spending every waking hour with the buyer for fear that they're going to go out and buy something without you because you've got them signed to a contract, it means you can work with an entire inventory of buyers who are signed to contracts. That's the benefit of Craig's system. Great question.
Now this question from Rachel is very specific to a certain type of prospect. I'm going to go ahead and sum what she's saying up. She got a listing presentation, had the prospect sign the contract. Come to find out, the prospect does not have the legal ability to sell the house at this time. She has to have a conservator, and they're waiting on some court orders making the contract null, according to her manager. So what do you suggest on how she keeps in touch with this client to, once she is able to sell the house legally, that she gets the listing again?
Well, I mean, you just said it. That is exactly it. You've got to stay in touch with them, and you need to get a time frame and cut it in half. But this is something that's very, very important, okay? I assure you that this seller does not want to go through the discomfort of interviewing other realtors when clearly they are comfortable with you. Now, how do we know that? It's because they listed with you in the first place. Now, they shouldn't have because they weren't in a position to be able to do that, but you know they chose you. Okay, so they've already gone through the discomfort of interviewing a realtor and choosing a realtor. And this is absolutely true. Do you think that prospects would like the process of choosing a realtor to be a long and agonizing decision to make, or would they prefer it to be an easy decision? And the answer is they'd much prefer it to be easy. Well, here's the deal. They've already chosen you. They've already clearly indicated that you're the one. So knowing that, the likeliness is that they're not going to choose anybody else. You need to stay in touch with them, not badger, but you need to have a really good idea, make them feel really comfortable with you, and then when they get the documentation that they need, you need to relist the property.
One of the problems, according to Rachel, she clarified, the conservator is actually looking and meeting with other agents.
Okay, so if you're not meeting with the decision maker, then I suggest you do. So you need to get their name, you need to get their contact information, and you need to schedule an appointment to meet with all of them. Because if you're not meeting with the decision maker, then all of this is a moot point. Right? Yes, you absolutely need to make an appointment with the decision makers. They all need to be present. It would be like you saying, I got a listing from the wife, and there's a divorce, but the husband wasn't there, and they own the property jointly. Total waste of your time. You've got to meet with both decision makers for this to be binding. So, yes, that's what you have to do. Yes, you need to make an appointment with both parties, and that's your new challenge. If you do, though, you at least know that 50% of the parties there are very comfortable working with you. That's good. That's a good start. That's better than anyone else. There is no other realtor that is 50% of the way there. They're all at zero when they start. You're at 50%. You've got half the decision makers in your corner. That's a good thing. Okay, who's next?
Our next question comes from Daniel. Are USP ads always branded for the classifieds?
Yes. If you are offering let me specify. When you say USP, what you're likely referring to are performance guarantees. Okay, so a performance guarantee must be associated with the business that is offering the guarantee, right? So if I say your home sold, or I'll pay you your home sold for 100% of asking price, or I'll pay you the difference. Does it stand to reason that there should be an I? Who's I? Oh, I'll pay you the difference. Who's I? So in other words, the whole benefit of the USP is that it is associated with the business offering the guarantee, thus making it branded by virtue of that. Okay, if it's $5,000 savings on any home purchase guaranteed, who's offering that? It's branded. Okay, so anytime you're offering a performance guarantee, it is always going to be branded. Now, remember, the benefit is this, okay? It's twofold. Number one, we want consumers in the marketplace to associate you not with a picture of a salesperson. We want them to associate you with an extremely valuable benefit. That's your USP. But number two, we also want the benefit to compel a prospect who is at that point in the process to pick up the phone, go online, whatever, and ask for more information about the USP. Right? So there's a direct response component, and what you're also doing is it is essentially brand association, but instead of the old school way of branding where we brand ourselves with our picture just for the sake of having a picture, saying, hey, don't you see my face? You know, or doing something, you know, with your dog or a horse or something. Instead, what we're saying is, here's me. The way I want you to think of me is not based on my picture, it's based on my USP, my benefit to you. That's how I want you to associate. See, something really powerful in our marketplace. Throughout the late 1980s, all of the 1990s, all of the 2000s, so you know, in part of 3 decades, if you were to come to York Region, everybody would know the name Craig Proctor. All right, if you were to go into the local mall and say, Craig Proctor, do you know Craig Proctor? They'd say, yeah, he's a local realtor in the area. What you'd be floored at, what you'd be shocked, is to find that how many of them would say this. He's that guy that'll buy your home. Okay? And now we did this, by the way. We did this on many occasions where we would film videos, testimonial videos, at random areas around Newmarket and around York Region. And we would ask people, and you'd be blown away by some of the stories that we would get, and the number of past clients, or you know, in some way that Craig's business had touched random people. But what was really remarkable is this: the high percentage of residents that say, Craig's the guy that'll buy your home. Okay, now first of all, here's what is remarkable about that. You can count on one hand the number of homes that Craig bought. The guarantee is, I'll buy it if I don't sell it. Well, he sold 99.9% of the properties that he guaranteed. So even though everybody in the marketplace knows Craig is the guy who will buy your home, in fact, he's not having to buy any homes. What a great way to be known. Instead of, he's the realtor that advertises everywhere. Instead, it's, he's the realtor that'll buy your home. And the reason is because Craig made sure, as soon as he understood this concept of marketing, he always made sure to associate him and his name with the guaranteed sale program. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do the guaranteed sale program. What it means is this: if you are ever going to advertise yourself, it is always to be associated with your USP. And that can be any performance guarantee. It could be any beneficial offering that you would make that would compel. But the point is the consistency of that message. Every time I see your face, I see your guarantee. I see your USP. What happens is we want consumers in the marketplace to begin to associate you with that benefit. And as soon as that happens, you've won because you're pre-sold. All right? Great question.
Okay, Ellen Levy has raised her hand and typed in a question also. I'll go ahead and open Ellen's line. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. I have sort of a complaint. I moved to a new subdivision this past summer, and there are 215 homes here. And one of the first things I wanted to do was to get a mailing out introducing myself and, you know, saying I'm here, I'm your new neighborhood realtor, and I want to introduce myself and do business. And I'd submitted a postcard that I had designed, and Craig, and you didn't like it because it didn't have a USP. I can certainly change that. But then when I talked to Todd Walters at one of the conferences, he said, don't bother, 215 homes is too few. Well, 9 houses sold here last year. It's a nice price range, and now there's a house down street from me that's on the market, another one that's around the corner, and I'm thinking, this is silly. 215 may not be 5,000, but there's some nice
Okay,
money
but
there. I would like to discuss this.
I agree with you. I think that maybe just knowing Todd as I know him, he wouldn't say don't do it at all. He would say don't only do that. Okay, so in other words, don't say my target market is a couple of hundred properties. In other words, yes, target those neighborhoods, but surely that's not all you're going to target. You need to target a wider area than that.
Oh, sure, and I am doing other things, and I will also expand that. But I took it to say, don't waste your money, don't do that, and it's not making sense to me.
No, and that's I assure you, Todd didn't say don't do it at all. What he meant was don't only do that, because it's a very small sampling. It's obviously too small to put all your eggs in that one basket. But you're not suggesting it's the only basket, but you're suggesting it's a very viable one right under your nose.
Right.
And I would tend to agree with you. Now, the way to begin, I completely agree with you, is with a direct mail campaign. And really, the direct mail campaign should be both branded and less branded. Okay? If you're going to do branded, though, I assure you the fact that you are a real estate salesperson living in their neighborhood is irrelevant to them, just as if somebody were to send you a postcard saying, hey, I'm a salesperson in your neighborhood, and if you're looking to buy a car, I sell cars. Right? That's good for you, but don't expect the phone to ring off the hook from that. Not going to happen. However, if you associate yourself with a very valuable unique selling proposition, that unique selling proposition very well will compel them to take action if they're considering selling their home or know someone else in the neighborhood who is. So the branded postcard has to associate you with a very valuable benefit to them. Now, what I would suggest, though, is in addition to that, you should be sending out a less branded postcard that defines the neighborhood and offers a free online home evaluation of properties in that neighborhood. And have a domain name that uses the neighborhood name in the domain name. In other words, make it really specific to that neighborhood.
I've already bought the domain name, and my plan was to alternate, sending out a branded one with a USP and an unbranded one offering a free home evaluation and or find out what the home down the street has sold for.
Yep, you read my mind. That's okay. exactly what you want to do. The more specific the message is to their neighborhood, the more compelling the message is. In other words, if it feels like generic information, it will not have as much traction as if the information is specific to that neighborhood. So in the marketing piece, if you can include the name of the neighborhood, it will make a big difference. Remember this, okay? This is a good way of looking at it, okay? When somebody gets information from Zillow, would you agree that the information is largely inaccurate? Like if I were to get a Zestimate, would you agree that the information is largely inaccurate?
Wildly inaccurate.
Wildly, comically inaccurate. Okay, now watch this. Because they offer generic information, then the information is only going to be so good. But if you are offering very specific information to the prospect, because it is so specific, they deem the information that they're going to receive as being far more accurate. And accuracy is tremendously important to somebody who is seriously considering selling their home. There's no point in getting inaccurate information or a ballpark. The more accurate, the better. So when you send out a message that says, homes in Glendale are up 11%, find your current home's value online. That, to me, as the resident in Glenway or Glendale, whatever the neighborhood is, to me, that is going to be very accurate to me. And if it's accurate, it's more valuable, and there's more chance I'm going to get it. If I don't glean it as being accurate, I might not be all that compelled to go to the website and get the information.
Great.
All right, good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing those on the ad clinic coming up.
Can I ask one more related question?
Of course you can, Ellen.
Okay, I was going to do a postcard that says a few things about how wonderful I am, because I haven't assembled the statistics and the pie charts and all of that somebody else, some of the other agents have. Is that a total waste of time? But if I kind of mostly emphasize the USP, but say something about how qualified I am?
Well, I'd have to see how you formatted it, but I have to tell you right now, what I would like you to focus on is strictly lead generation.
Okay.
Let's generate the leads. And the way that we're going to generate the leads is by simplifying the messages. When you grab your mail out of the mailbox, you do not read it, you look at it. You just look at it. You look at it very briefly. You look at it subconsciously. You're not reading the whole thing. So in other words, largely this is going to fall on deaf ears or blind eyes. So we need to make sure that overwhelmingly it is the message that you want the prospects to read that pops, that is what they see when they're sorting their mail. I want them to see your Glenway home is worth more than you think. Find out its current value online today. That's all I want them to look at, nothing else. Because if they're thinking about selling, they're going to put that on the kitchen counter. Now, here's what you'd rather do is when the prospects identify themselves by responding to the simple messages, as a follow-up tool, that's when you now everything is branded in the follow-up. That's when now you can send them your newsletter that would be full of that information, or an email newsletter that has that information. Now is when you can start to brand yourself with all of these benefits and all of this information. But to get the prospect to raise their hand in the first place, they're going to respond to a benefit-rich message that they see. And that means it can't be overwhelmed with all kinds of other information and details. No one's reading it. They're going to look at what pops off of in this case, the postcard. So in the beginning, I'd like you to simplify it. Follow the examples on BXL that are on the website.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Something I wanted to suggest also for Ellen's situation where she's in a neighborhood. My neighborhood, and I live in a smaller town, but a lot of neighborhoods now have their own Facebook pages. And I've come to realize that I see a lot of my neighbors will note that they're thinking about putting up their house for sale before they even contact a realtor. So I suggest, really become involved in your homeowner association or neighborhood Facebook pages.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that if you're, I don't know if you have success helping you with that, but as long as you know the names of the neighborhoods, you can search these things and you can find all of their Facebook pages, and that's a no-brainer. You could design an ad that specifically offers home evaluations in that specific neighborhood. You make everything completely specific to the name of the neighborhood, and anyone looking there, that's a no-brainer.
Okay, our next question from Austin. It says, James, if you have time, could you go back over the reason for do not tell the lead you will call them to confirm the appointment? I thought this was good practice, and now I'm a little confused on what to do.
Well, let me just ask you, when you call them to confirm, what do they say? Hey, if you told me when I call back to confirm, they always say, yes, I'm on pins and needles, I can't wait to meet you tomorrow night, then great, keep doing it. I cannot repeat this enough. Do not fix what isn't broken. Okay? If it's working, whatever you're doing, don't stop. If you call and confirm every appointment and they never cancel, then keep doing that. But if you said to me, as many do, whenever I call them to confirm, they always use the phone call as an excuse to cancel the appointment. Stop calling them then. Don't call them. In other words, put the onus on them. The only reason they're canceling the appointment is out of convenience because you're calling them, making it easy. It's almost like this. Hey, Andrea, I know our appointment is tomorrow night, but I just wanted to see if maybe you had something else going on and maybe you wanted to do it later. That's what they're hearing. When you call and you're confirming the appointment, what the prospect is hearing is, hey, do you want to do this later? Like, we could do this really anytime. Do we really, you sure you want to do this tomorrow night? Yeah, probably should just kick it down the road, right? I mean, don't make it easy. Because here's the deal. Andrea, had I never called, Andrea would have shown up for the appointment. But I made it real easy. Andrea's sitting on the couch, right? Had a hectic day, knows tomorrow's going to be the same, and says, yeah, you know what, maybe, can we do it later? Let me call you back. I'm going to talk to my husband, and we'll come up with another time. And you just blew it. So remember, here's the rule, overwhelming. The rule that succeeds all rules is this. Always let what is working dictate what you continue and discontinue doing. So if what you're doing is working, do not stop, do not change it, do not fix it. It's working, keep doing it. If what you're doing, on the other hand, is not yielding you the results you're looking for, then we've got to do something different. So if you told me I'm getting a lot of appointments that cancel, and then I say, well, when are they canceling? And you say, when I call them, they cancel. Okay, I'm going to make it easy. Don't call them anymore. Do not call them. Put the onus on them. And what you're going to find is this. If you don't make it easy for them to cancel, they won't. And way more of them will show up. But if you make it easy by calling them out of simple convenience, they'll say, yeah, you know what, can we do that later? If you hadn't called them, they would have shown up. So, you know, that's why not all of you are going to do the same thing, because some of you are going to find that when I do this, I get this, and when I do this, I get that. I want you to base this on practice, not theory, right? Practice. What happens in the real world versus what theoretically ought to happen. If you call and confirm appointments and it works, do it. If you call to confirm and it causes appointments to cancel, don't do it. It isn't any more complicated than that. So therefore, we will have some members that always confirm. Some of them do it by email. Some of them do it by calling. And we will have, they swear that that's the best process for them and it works. And then I'll have somebody else who's a successful student in the system and they will swear up and down the opposite. To them, it works better when they don't. I don't care which one. I want you to use what works. We're going to go with practice, not theory. What works best in practice is what matters. Okay? So here's the idea, though. We're going to give you all kinds of options. You've got options. In other words, when you hit a roadblock and when something is happening and you say, any suggestions? We're going to say, damn right we have suggestions. Here are 5 different things that you can try based on what's happening. But when we hit on the one that works, we're going to hit the repeat button and we're going to bang it out and do it over and over and over again. Great question.
Okay, we have a hand raised from Nima Navini, and I believe she would like to do a quick role play. Nima, your line is open. Go ahead and unmute on your end by hitting the red mic button on your control panel. We'll give you a few seconds to do that.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Who's this?
Hi, James. This is Nima.
Oh, hey, Nima.
I'd
How you
like to
doing?
role play.
Okay.
Excellent. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just in the middle of something right now. Who is this?
Hey, James. This is Nima with Aspero Realty, and the reason I'm calling today is because we received your request for the information you wanted regarding distress and foreclosure properties, and I just wanted to say we prepared it, and you should have it in your inbox shortly. Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
By the way, are you folks planning on making a move within the next 3 to 6 months?
Maybe.
Okay, and do you currently rent or do you own your own house?
No, we own.
You own. And are you planning on selling your home first before you purchase the new home, or are you planning on making a purchase first?
Yeah, we were thinking of buying an investment property. So I just saw the ad and I thought I'd call and see, you know, what I could find. It's something I've been thinking about doing for a little while now.
Okay, and are you planning on staying within the same area or moving away?
Well, no, I told you I'm not moving anywhere. I was looking for the property as an investment property. That was the only reason. I'm not moving.
Oh, I see. And do you have a realtor to help you when the time is right?
No, not really. No, I'm just looking around right now. I'm just gathering information, seeing what properties, what values out there and stuff like that.
Okay. So if what if the perfect property for you was available now? Would you be in the position to act on it now?
If the perfect property was available, yeah. I mean, it would have to be really good, but if it were, then yes, I would.
Okay, all right, very well. And so in addition to what I'm going to send you, would you like me to email you every day updates of homes that match your home buying criteria from all real estate companies? Our list includes bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, any sorts of distress sales, pretty much all properties that either are hard to find or not even online. It's a free service, and of course, you're never obligated to buy a home from us. Would that interest you as well?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and yeah, anything you got, send it to me. I'd like to take a look at it, of course.
All right, sounds good. And so when can we get together, James, for about 20, 30 minutes so I can take down exactly what you're looking for? Mornings, afternoons, or evening works best for you?
Just send me everything.
Well, you know, James, rather than emailing you hundreds and hundreds of homes which may or may not match your home buying criteria, or worse, risk on missing out the perfect one, if we can get together for about 20 minutes, I have a form that I fill out, and I can take down exactly what you're looking for. That way, it saves both of us lots of time in the long run. When can we get together for about 20 minutes so I can take down your information? It's a free service. You're never obligated, and I'm flexible.
Okay. All right. So how about on the weekend?
Sure. The mornings or evenings works best for you.
Sometime after 10 a.m.
Okay. I have 11 a.m. on Saturday? Does that work for you?
That's good. Yeah, 11's good.
Okay. Fantastic. By the way, it would be great if all the decision makers are there as well, so we can do a quick, great job for you. And is there a significant other in this process?
Yeah, my wife will be with me as well.
Okay, fantastic. All right, so I'll see you Saturday, 11 a.m. And just to recap, when we get together, I'll take down your exact home buying criteria and set you up so you can receive pictures and descriptions of all the homes from all real estate companies, including foreclosures, corporation-owned, bank-owned, distress sales, and it's a free service, and you're never obligated to buy a home from us. And I will send you a follow-up email, and looking forward to meeting you and your wife Saturday at 11 a.m.
Perfect. Okay, so let's do a little recap here. First of all, I want to hear from you. All right, tell me where you felt a little, any parts where you felt like a little uncomfortable or challenged.
Usually in the beginning.
Yeah.
It's usually in the beginning, maybe the first few questions, or maybe the first couple of questions. Look, I didn't even hear you said about you know, I was nervous, so I didn't even hear about an investment property.
Right. Okay.
I kind of missed that completely.
And that's the big thing is your challenge is going to be to make sure you're very intently listening to what the prospect tells you. It is absolutely key, because otherwise it can make you look foolish to the prospect, and now it's over. In other words, when I say, no, I'm looking for the property as an investment property, and you say, oh, are you moving away? I'm like, is this guy for real? Like, I just told you I'm not selling my home. I'm looking for an investment property. It's so critical that we look super smart. And the way to look smart is we've got to really intently listen to exactly what the prospect is telling us. So that was one little thing. that you've got to be really conscious of is don't worry about what you're going to say next. Listen to the prospect. Now, here's one thing that was absolutely excellent. When I said, no, I don't have a realtor to help me when the time is right, you kind of ran out of questions, but you didn't really know how serious I was. So immediately you said, hey, if the perfect property came available, would you make a move on it? You know, would you be in a position to do something with that now? If the absolute best deal came available right now. I love that question. Here's what I love even more. I like that you asked it because instead of just going for the appointment, you wanted to make sure that I was for real, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So that was a really good question to ask. Now, you know, here's some other language I wouldn't use. I would say, instead of saying, I want to make sure all decision makers are present, it sounds very intimidating and it sounds like you're going to sell me something. So maybe you want to word it a little differently. Like maybe you want to say it like this. Hey, James, are you married? Would you be, you know, is this something that you're doing with your spouse? And I say, no, I'm not. Or yes, I am. Like, no big deal, right? It's just, I mean, it's a simple question. Hey, is this something that you're doing, you know, are you married? Is this something you're doing with your wife or by yourself? It's a pretty easy question, right? And then they say, no, I'm married. It would be with my wife. Okay, well, I assume that your wife has an interest in this, so will she be present at the appointment on Saturday as well? Or can we make sure that she's present as well on Saturday?
Gotcha.
Right? I mean, this is just two people talking, and it's completely reasonable what you're saying, right? There's nothing salesy going on here. It's not, you know, threatening language, but you did a really good job. Now, the one thing that I would like you to do is this. Later on this afternoon, today's webinar will be up on the website for you to go back and listen to. When it is, I want you to go and listen to it again and fast forward to our little role play here. And I want you to hear what you sound like from a third-party perspective. I want you to hear what you sound like doing the role play. Because something that when you really master this, you're going to get better and better at it, is you want to try to mirror the tonality, the cadence and speed of speech to your prospect. And if it sounds clumsy or you're umming and ahhing and you're to a prospect that doesn't have that speech pattern, it's extremely frustrating to them and you're losing them. So it's really important that you're extremely well versed in what you're going to say, and then when you know absolutely without any hesitation exactly what you're going to say, then you can mirror the pattern of speech of the prospect that you're speaking with so that they feel comfortable.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Quick question. Excellent job.
Thank you. Thank you very much. A quick question about the pre-approval. Would you bring that up now, or would you rather just meet up with them and then mention it there? Like something along.
What I would do is I'd base it on what's happening. So in other words, if let's say that you booked this appointment and then you found out that there were financial issues and that they couldn't, you know, they weren't in a position to buy. If that happened to you once or twice, you know, in other words, if this kept happening over and over again, you'd have to say, okay, stop. I need to do something about this. But if you said, no, you know what, I'm able to get them financing. You know, I'm pretty good. I've got a good lender that I work with. I'm able to get them financing. Then we don't need to change anything. So you tell me when you book these appointments, how often is financing the roadblock between you and working with this client? And if you say, oh, all the time, then yeah, we got to figure that out. We got to book the appointment, and then we got to add some questions. We got to say, hey, by the way, how did you arrive at the price point that you're looking at for your investment property? Have you been pre-qualified for a certain amount of money? That's what I say.
Gotcha.
Makes sense, right? I say, hey, Nima.
Absolutely.
Nima, you mentioned that you were looking for properties in the 250 to 325 price point. How did you arrive at that price range? Have you been pre-qualified for a home loan for that amount? It's a yes or no question. You say, no, you know, I was just basing it on the monthly payment. I haven't done that yet. Okay, do you have a cash down payment available for the property? Right? Like, here's the thing too. In that situation, I got to look at it from a couple different perspectives as well. You know that they own their home, right? That was one of the things you knew from the prospect. They own their own home. So we might take a risk, take a gamble that they're able to do this and it's worth the risk. If we meet with if we meet with 10 buyers who are in this, follow this, scenario, and 9 of them qualify, then we don't have a problem here. Maybe one of them won't, but overwhelmingly they do. So we don't have to get into it. But hey, you know what? We've got all kinds of very non-threatening questions we can ask, and that would be a good one. So you book the appointment for Saturday, and then you say, hey, by the way, you're looking in this price range. How'd you arrive at that price point? Have you been pre-qualified for a home loan in that price point? Yes or no? And that'll help figure it out. Really good. Thank you for volunteering, Nima. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Andrea, thanks for your help today, and to everybody who volunteered and who asked questions. We'll do it again next week. And we'll do it again on the role play session and on all of the upcoming webinars this week. So no shortage of opportunity to get all your questions answered. Hey, participation is the key. So the more you participate, the happier we are. We'll look forward to hearing from everybody later in the week. Thanks, Andrea.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This officially ends the helpline for today.